Thank you very much for this time. This is very cool. So we just finished about a half-hour meeting, or a little bit more than that, with Seward City Council and some of the city citizens, and you got to answer a bunch of questions. I guess first to start off, what was your takeaway from our meeting?
Well, I get enthused when I come and talk to Alaskans. I really do, because they, in their own personal life, they want a better Alaska, and I think everybody wants a better Alaska. But what I hear is people saying it's okay to change the game a bit for us to make sure that we have the result that we want in the way of a better Alaska. So I enjoy this immensely. I really do. This is what I call my Alaskan summer vacation, and being able to come and talk to various communities around the state, and you know, it's been, each one's been unique to itself, because that's just the way we are in Alaska.
Yes,
certainly the message in King Cove and Cove Bay and Dutch Harbor is different, but it really is all about what can we do to help fix Alaska.
Gotcha. Yeah. Seward is very lucky as far as the programs it has. We've got AvTech, Sea Life Center, we have prison. Pretty much in Seward, a lot of the jobs you have are either with the city or with the state, no matter what you're doing here. And recently we had some talks about our relationship with AvTech here in town, as recreational facilities, things like that. And AvTech means a lot to us here. And in this kind of coming up time where we've got some of AvTech facilities up at Anchorage closing, nursing facilities up there, and I've heard that we've had some cuts to the budget for AvTech. What can Seward do to help strengthen our AvTech here in town, and kind of, like you said before, have some skin in the game?
Well, a couple of things. One is, I mean, Seward has what it has because Seward went out and made it happen. It didn't just happen overnight, or just happen. You know, the successes you have, the many successes you have in Seward, didn't happen because anything other than local community members getting involved and making it happen. Yes. So I have a lot of faith in Alaskans in general as a result of that, and Seward is sort of a poster child of what happens when you work together on something. So, yes, what needs to happen is, you know, Alaskans need to, again, I don't mean to repeat myself from earlier, but they need to let their legislators know it's okay. In fact, it's not okay not to make tough decisions. That's why I want to be a situation that not making tough decisions is unacceptable. You're expected to make the decisions that are necessary of the day. You know, someone came up to me. I flew back from Fairbanks last winter. But got about midnight. It was one of the planes you walk on the tarmac. You didn't know so I walked on the tarmac, and it was blowing a bit. And some guy turned around and came back to me. He said, I didn't know him. He saw me on the plane. He said, I just want to thank you. I said, I want to thank you because I'm glad we have a governor that will run to the fire. And that's really what it's about. You know, you can't run from the deficit. You know, you just can't. You got to run to it. You got to run to it. You got to embrace this situation, and you need to make decisions that may cost somebody an election. But my gosh, how proud would one be to say, I lost my job, but we fixed Alaska. You know, I lost my job, we put the fire out.
Yes.
You know, so we're arguing over parking spots in front of the fire. We just need to stop doing that and go out and fight the fire and put it out.
On that kind of topic, you know, one thing it did make me think about is Seward has a project over here with our Seward Marine Industrial Center. We are putting in a breakwater that's kind of long overdue. But the city of Seward, the staff here, did a great job of kind of cobbling together funds to make this happen. And at the very end, they were about $5 to $7 million short at the very kind of the end of their fundraising. And so they went to AvTech, took the data from this breakwater project, used some of the technology that AvTech has, a bridge simulator, and were able to knock a couple of $1 million off the final price, which did make the state very happy, and we did get that final bid. And my concern is that in our kind of cutting of programs and projects, that we don't lose the ability to save money. Like in this situation, if we hadn't had that bridge simulator, we might not have gotten our breakwater finished, or we would have had to spend a couple $1 million extra there. So I just wanted to kind of say that. Your comments made me think about it here.
Well, let me just say this about AvTech. Unfortunately, on that bridge simulator, I think I took out the fuel dock when I was trying to dock a ship on the simulator process. It is the most realistic simulator I've ever seen.
Right.
And we have pilots, We have tanker captains that come here for, for that, for their training. So it's phenomenal. What AvTech has done is absolutely phenomenal, and it doesn't stop. I mean, the housing accommodations that are there are absolutely incredible. So so that's why I made it so difficult for me to make any budget cuts that involve AvTech at all. So that was very, very tough to do that. But you're right, we have to be smart about this. We can cut things that we'd save money if we spend a little bit more in the long run. So we look at our fiscal situation, we look at the long game. We have to play the short game, but we look at the long game and make sure we don't do something that is going to cost us in the long run a lot more. So it's a challenge, but that's a very good example. Again, what on the port side, what you're doing on ship repair, it pains me that any ship leaves Alaska for any work at all.
Yes, right.
And so let's make sure that we do it as much as we can locally. And so I know a little bit about ship repair locally. I bought a boat in Seward, half hour out of Seward, headed to Valdez. Both engines blew up. Oh, nice. And so I helped with the economy of shipyards in Seward to replace those engines and whatnot. So yeah, I'm a big fan of AvTech.
Excellent.
And the culinary. What you did and what happened when the president was here on the culinary piece. It's a great story. It really is. And again, sometimes people say, well, Seward was very lucky. I said, you know what? Luck always follows hard work. And there was a lot of hard work that went into to make sure these projects happen. And so I'm not a big believer that communities just get lucky. I just think that there's a lot of work that goes in to cause that to happen.
Yes. And I was, I grew up here. I was in high school when they talked about bringing in the Sea Life Center, and I remember the first time I stepped in there, and it felt like I was stepping into a whole new world. It wasn't little sleepy Seward anymore. It was something that was much grander, and that's played a role in this town so much. And I guess sort of as a final question, sort of wrap up here. I'm a family man. I've got 3 people in my family, and whereas the $1,000 dividend is huge. It's, I couldn't imagine anybody just giving me money for any reason like that. So very grateful for that. The difference between this year and last year is, for my family, all of the heating and food that we need for the winter. It's a pretty big deal to us, and we're totally willing to take that kind of hit so that we can keep the state of Alaska vibrant. But we're thinking a little bit more about next year and the year after that. Is this gonna, this cut this year, is that gonna help solve up or make it solid our dividend?
It is, and we know that if we make no changes, then the dividend program goes away in its entirety. And so we've said under the model, the financial model we put together, with the earnings going, a portion of the earnings going to fund government, we'll be able to keep that $1,000 into generations going forward. So that's what we're trying. When we call it the Permanent Fund Protection Act, it really is. We're trying to. It sounds, counterintuitive that we're called the Protection Act, and yet we're reducing it back to the average. The average since we've had the Permanent Fund is about $1,100. So we're bringing it back to that average, and it does. It has become part of our economy. It's an important piece of our economy. There's no question about that. So, and I don't second guess that.
It's not just a gift. It goes into businesses and
exactly. And the vast majority of it stays here in Alaska. So, so our goal is to be able to keep the permanent fund at the $1,000 range is our goal. And so, and the money that was not spent on that went back into the savings account to be able to continue to sort of create the pocket of revenue for the permanent fund.
Excellent, right. And actually, as you're talking, I'm sorry, I had one more thought in my head. Seward does have a lot of state-run projects, or at least working with the state on a lot of projects here. Are there ones that are more at risk right now? I know that education spending has been cut. Are there going to be cuts to prison spending? That's another important thing for us.
Well, I mean, there's certain things you just can't cut. I mean, an example, our Department of Commerce Economic Development, they cut 61%. Corrections is down about, I think, maybe 7 or 8%. Public safety is about 9%. There's certain things you just can't, protect the employees in the prison system and the protection of those that are incarcerated.
Right.
There's certain things you can only go so far.
Yes.
And so I wouldn't look until you look at the sort of across the board, and you see a big disparity. Fish and game was cut 30%. I want to go much more than 30% because Fish and Game has a lot to do with our fishing industry, and the fishing industry has come to us saying, don't do any more cuts in Fish and Game. So it's a.
Is that kind of a secret?
And you know, and so it's you know, no two departments are really equal. Not trying to prioritize one over the other, but some we just have to provide. You know, we have to provide. You know, protect our residents.
Right. And I mean, as some would say that if we don't spend money on education now, we'll be spending money on prisons later.
And the best investment we can make is on education. As far as we look for a return on your investment, there's no question about that. We're going to have to figure out ways of doing it a little more economically, and be a little more creative in that regard, and still be within the bounds of the laws and that are there. So it's a challenge, but we'll get there.
Yeah, right. And as this conversation goes, just more and more stuff is coming to mind. I don't know how much more time you have, but wrap it up. Excellent.
I see. Okay.
All right.
Very
Well,
good.
thank you so much for
You
your
bet.
time.
Thank you. Yeah. Good to meet you.
You too.
Very much.